40,000 tons of American steel parked in hostile waters. The USS Bataan displaces as much as a World War II aircraft carrier, yet she carries no carrier's title. She is something far more unsettling: a $3 billion floating invasion base, 844 feet of sovereign territory aimed squarely at Iran. Not a traditional warship, but a fortress built to put Marines on a coastline by force. Tehran is watching. What makes one hull this powerful? And what happens when the Navy cannot get her back to sea? 844 feet from bow to stern, the USS Bataan dwarfs nearly everything afloat in the Persian Gulf. Her steel hull stretches longer than 2 football fields end to end. From waterline to the top of her island, she towers above the waves, casting a shadow that can be measured in city blocks. The ship's full load displacement, over 40,358 tons, puts her in the weight class of a World War II fleet carrier. Yet every inch is packed with the machinery of modern amphibious warfare. The flight deck alone spans 140 feet across, a slab of armored steel wide enough to launch and recover squadrons of tilt-rotor Ospreys, Super Stallion helicopters, and the jump jet F-35B. Beneath that deck, the cavernous hangar swallows aircraft whole, while elevators rise and fall, lifting combat power to the surface in minutes. But the Bataan's bulk is not just for show. The hull encases a floating city, 3,000 sailors and Marines, hundreds of armored vehicles, and enough aviation fuel and ammunition to sustain a week-long assault. Her well deck, an internal bay nearly the length of a city block, can be flooded in minutes, transforming the ship into a mobile harbor. From here, air-cushioned landing craft roar out, each one carrying tanks and troops for a beachhead that might not exist until the moment of attack. Every compartment, every passageway, is engineered to maximize volume and resilience. Watertight doors, blast-resistant bulkheads, and redundant power lines twist through the decks. The scale is overwhelming, but it is not excess. Every ton is calculated, every foot of steel justified by the need to project force across an ocean and put boots on hostile sand. Yet the ship's size is also a liability. Such a massive target cannot hide. Her radar signature is unmistakable, her presence impossible to ignore. In any crisis, the Bataan's silhouette on the horizon is both a promise and a provocation, a signal that the United States has arrived, and that escalation can happen at a moment's notice. The question lingers: how does this much space, this much mass, get used when the order comes down? What does it take to fill a ship this size with the machinery and manpower of invasion? And what are the risks when so much power is concentrated in a single hull? A ship like Bataan costs nearly $3 billion because it is not built for a single mission or a single threat. The heart of her design is a double-decked, 2-highway system, one layer for air war and one for sea invasion. The upper deck is a hardened runway, armored to absorb the heat and shock of vertical landings. Below, a second cavernous bay swallows tanks, trucks, and landing craft. It is an engineering gamble. NAVSEA called it a dual-layer architecture, and every inch of it drives up complexity and price. Stacking these 2 highways inside one hull means everything is rerouted. Fuel lines, power cables, and ventilation snake through tight corridors, often doubling back on themselves to avoid the massive elevator shafts that punch through both decks. Ballast tanks must be carefully managed to keep the ship balanced as weight shifts between loaded aircraft above and heavy armor below. Even the ship's hospital, tucked deep within the hull, is shaped by the need to wedge operating rooms and triage wards between the machinery and storage spaces that support both flight and amphibious operations. A senior engineer from NAVSEA once described Bataan as a floating compromise. To fit so much inside a single hull, the ship's designers pushed the limits of what steel can do. The flight deck is strong, but not invulnerable. The well deck below is enormous, but vulnerable to flooding if the outer doors are breached. Every compartment added for flexibility means another potential weak point if the hull is struck. The price tag, about $3 billion at commissioning, reflects not just the raw materials or the cutting-edge systems, but the constant trade-off between offensive reach and defensive risk. This and a stacked two-highway layout gives Bataan the ability to launch a vertical assault and a seaborne landing at the same time. But it also means that a single missile, if it penetrates the outer layers, could cripple both capabilities in one blow. The engineering that makes Bataan so formidable is the same complexity that makes her vulnerable in a modern kill zone. Orders for deployment arrived in July 2023, setting the USS Bataan on a collision course with one of the world's most volatile maritime frontiers. On July 10th, Bataan, along with her Amphibious Ready Group, departed Norfolk, Virginia. The mission was blunt: project American power, guarantee freedom of navigation, and stand as a visible deterrent in waters where Iranian fast attack craft and missile batteries shadow every commercial convoy. The ship's commanding officer, responsible for nearly 3,000 lives and billions in military hardware, summed it up in a message to the crew: "We are the shield and the signal. Our presence is the message." The Bataan's arrival in the Gulf was not routine patrol. Her silhouette off the Strait of Hormuz forced adversaries to recalculate. Intelligence intercepts recorded IRGC Navy chatter, noting the ship's air wing on alert and the well deck loaded for rapid launch. The 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit drilled for both amphibious assault and emergency evacuation, while Bataan's radar tracked swarms of drones and missile signatures along the Iranian coast. Every sortie, every launch, was an act of visible defiance, a reminder that escalation could come from any quarter. By February 2024, as the Gaza conflict spilled across the region and Houthi missiles hunted shipping in the Red Sea, the Pentagon extended Bataan's deployment. The extension order, issued without fanfare, kept the ship on station, stretching crew endurance and straining machinery. Bataan was no longer just a deterrent. She became the linchpin of U.S. crisis response, a floating fortress holding the line in a theater where one miscalculation could ignite a wider war. 3,000 people live and work inside the USS Bataan, an entire town packed into a steel hull adrift in hostile waters. Every deck groans under the weight of bodies, gear, and ceaseless motion. Marines of the 26th Marine Expeditionary Unit, the first special operations capable Marine Expeditionary Unit deployed in over 2 decades, share narrow bunks stacked 3 high. Sleep is rationed in 6-hour shifts. The air is thick with sweat, oil, and the churn of machinery. In the galley, chow lines snake through the passageways, feeding waves of hungry men and women who know that the next meal might be their last before a launch order. Space is always at a premium. Berthing compartments double as makeshift gyms and briefing rooms. Personal space shrinks to a footlocker and a curtain. The ship's hospital, wedged deep within the armored decks, stands ready for the worst. 4 fully equipped operating rooms and a 600-bed surge ward can absorb the aftermath of a missile strike or a mass casualty landing. Navy doctors and corpsmen drill for trauma on the move, knowing that a single salvo from shore could turn the lower decks into a triage nightmare. Every system is stretched to its limits. Fresh water is rationed, air conditioning battles the heat of the Gulf, and the medical staff rotates through 72-hour watches. The burden is collective: sailors and Marines, officers and enlisted, all locked in a cycle of work, rest, and readiness. This is not a cruise, it is a siege in slow motion. Bataan's floating city is built for war, but every day at sea exposes the strain that comes with projecting American power from a single vulnerable hull. Blades turn and jet exhaust scorches the 140-foot-wide flight deck, where the tempo never lets up. The surface is a hardened runway, engineered to withstand the hammer of vertical landings and the heat of afterburners. Here, Bataan's air wing comes alive, a mix of V-22 Ospreys, CH-53E Super Stallions, MH-60S Seahawks, and on surge, the F-35B Lightning II. Each aircraft is a tool of power projection, chosen for its ability to leap the horizon or deliver Marines where no peer exists. The Osprey's tilt-rotor design gives it the reach of a plane and the landing agility of a helicopter, ferrying troops and supplies to distant shorelines in a single bound. Super Stallions haul artillery, vehicles, and pallets of ammunition, their rotors beating out the rhythm of an assault. Seahawks sweep ahead for submarine threats or sling-load cargo to a beachhead under fire. When the F-35B is aboard, its short takeoff and vertical landing transform the ship into a strike platform, able to launch precision attacks far inland or defend the fleet against incoming missiles. Deck crews choreograph this ballet in relentless cycles, refueling, rearming, spotting aircraft for launch, then clearing the deck for the next sortie. Every foot of the flight deck is marked for purpose: landing spots, blast shields, and elevator hatches that drop to the hangar below. The geometry matters. The 140-foot width allows simultaneous recovery and launch, stacking helicopters nose to tail while jump jets hover just feet away. This is vertical envelopment at scale, a ship that can lift an entire marine company from sea to shore in minutes, bypassing mined harbors and fortified beaches. Bataan's air wing is not just support, it's the spearhead, the first wave, and the insurance policy if the sea lanes are cut. The offensive reach is measured not in miles, but in the speed with which the ship can put Marines, armor, and firepower wherever the crisis demands. The well deck of USS Bataan is a cavern of steel and salt air, stretching nearly the length of a city block. When the order is given, massive hydraulic gates drop and the sea rushes in, flooding the bay until water laps at the boots of waiting Marines. 4 LCACs stand ready, each a 30-ton hovercraft built for speed and shock. Engines snarl to life, inflating their skirts and lifting them above the rising tide. In less than 4 minutes, the deck transforms from a dry garage into a launch tunnel. Crewmen race to clear tie-downs and check hatches. The signal flashes, and the first LCAC surges forward, blasting out of the ship at over 40 knots. Each craft can haul an Abrams tank, a platoon of Marines, or a payload of armored vehicles straight from the ship's belly to a hostile shore. No dock, no pier, no warning. The Bataan's sea lift is pure over-the-horizon muscle, designed to project force where no port exists, and to do it faster than any adversary can react. In these moments, the ship's bulk is not a burden, but a springboard, hurling steel and men directly onto contested sand. Every launch is a gamble. The further from shore, the safer the ship, but the greater the risk to the landing force. For the crews guiding these floating sledgehammers, the margin for error is razor thin. The well deck empties in a matter of minutes, but the outcome on the beach will ripple back to the ship's heart, shaping the next move in a theater where defense and offense blur at the waterline. Steel and electronics form the edge of Bataan's defensive bubble, but every layer is stretched thin by the threats closing in. The ship's first shield is the Rayam-116 rolling airframe missile, with 2 launchers, one forward and one aft, each primed to fire a swarm of supersonic interceptors at incoming anti-ship missiles or fast attack boats. Beyond 5 kilometers, these can swat down a single missile streaking in low, or break up a swarm before it can close the distance. If even one missile slips through, the next barrier is the Phalanx CIWS, a pair of 20mm Gatling guns. each spitting out 4,500 rounds per minute, their radar-guided barrels tracking anything that survives the outer screen. The last fallback is 4 Mark 38 chain guns, 2 per side, manned and ready to rake small boats or drones that slip beneath the radar. Each system is a stopgap, not a guarantee. In a real attack, the envelope shrinks fast. The rolling airframe missile can run dry in seconds. Phalanx has only a handful of bursts before its magazine empties. The chain guns rely on human reflexes under fire. For the crew, every drill is a rehearsal for the moment when the protective bubble collapses and the ship's survival comes down to split-second decisions and the thin margin of layered defense. Deep in the hull, the heartbeat of Bataan is mechanical. A pair of General Electric LM2500 gas turbines, each the size of a city bus, feeding power into twin shafts that drive the ship across open water. These engines, together pushing out nearly 70,000 shaft horsepower, allow the Bataan to reach speeds above 22 knots and sustain a cruising range of 7,000 nautical miles without a port in sight. The engineering spaces hum with automation. Fuel flow, temperature, and vibration are monitored around the clock, letting the ship operate for weeks with only routine watchstanders. 4 ship service generators supply electricity to every corner, powering not just weapons and radar, but the essentials of survival: air conditioning, water purification, and the galley that feeds 3,000 souls. Desalination plants draw seawater and produce 75,000 gallons of fresh water daily, enough to keep the floating city alive, even as the Gulf bakes outside. Yet this autonomy has limits. Bataan can endure at sea for about 30 days before fuel, food, and spare parts run low. Every mile traveled and every system running draws down the finite reserves packed into her steel shell. The ship's machine shop can fabricate replacement parts on the fly, but true independence is always temporary. In the end, even a fortress this large relies on a supply chain stretching back across oceans. It is a reminder that power projection, no matter how advanced, is always a race against time and distance. Bataan never operates alone. Her survival and offensive reach depend on a tight-knit formation known as the Amphibious Ready Group. Alongside her sail, the USS Mesa Verde and USS Carter Hall, each a distinct actor with its own strengths and vulnerabilities. Mesa Verde, a San Antonio-class transport dock, brings extra troop capacity, a secondary flight deck, and command and control systems that knit the group together. Carter Hall, a dock landing ship, hauls additional landing craft and armored vehicles, expanding the group's ability to land force ashore. The Amphibious Ready Group's power comes not just from numbers, but from networked defense. Radar tracks, missile warnings, and targeting data flow between ships in real time through Link 16, a digital nervous system that fuses each hull into a single fighting organism. Alone, Bataan's defenses are finite and can be saturated. Together, the group forms a mobile shield, a layered perimeter that extends the ship's survivability and turns a single hull into the core of a moving fortress. 78%. That is the Navy's own figure for the mission-capable rate of its amphibious fleet. This number means nearly 1 in 4 ships is sidelined by maintenance, parts shortages, or deferred upgrades. The backlog is not abstract. It translates to fewer hulls on station and longer deployments for the ships that remain. USS Bataan has spent months at sea, not just because of operational demand, but because there are too few ships to share the burden. A senior defense analyst, speaking on the record, called it a readiness crisis hiding in plain sight. Every extension order and every delay in dry dock compounds the strain. With only 78% of amphibious ships able to sail, every hull becomes a single point of failure. The pressure to modernize is mounting, but the fleet is already stretched thin. The numbers are not just statistics, they are the hard limits on American reach in a world where the margin for error is vanishing. The clock is running on the USS Bataan's future. In March 2024, the Navy locked in a $311 million contract for a full-scale dry dock overhaul called DSRA at NASCO, Norfolk. The job is massive, stripping and resurfacing the scorched flight deck to handle the F-35B's punishing exhaust, tearing down and rebuilding the LM-2500 turbines, upgrading power grids, and rewiring the ship for next-generation Link 16 data. Every bolt and circuit must be ready for a war that could break out with no warning. The contract's deadline is May 2026. That date isn't just a line on a calendar. It's a hard stop. If the Bataan misses her return, the Navy's amphibious fleet loses a core asset at a time when every hull counts. The ship sits in dry dock, surrounded by scaffolding, while the world outside grows more dangerous by the week. Whether she returns in time is a question no one can answer yet. The race is on and the stakes are national. Right now, Bataan isn't just a warship. She is sovereign United States territory pushed into the world's most volatile waters. Her steel decks promise swift force, but her survival depends on strained fleets and aging escorts. Every delay in modernization carves risk into the heart of United States deterrence. In this new era, readiness is not measured in intentions. It is measured in hulls that can actually answer the call.